Welcome. Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Deb. I'm so excited to be here.
I know. So we have had the most wonderful, wonderful time together. At least that in my experience, I had such a wonderful time with you. I can't believe that you paid me for this.
Well, I know I'm kind of a big deal, and so are you. And when people like that get together, it's magic.
And it did kind of seem like magic watching you transform right before my eyes, seriously. So, first of all, I'd like all the listeners to know that you are not handcuffed and you have not been paid a lot of money to be on this podcast. Is that correct?
That's correct. That is
Okay.
correct.
And
I
all the
was really, I listened to your podcast the whole time that I was working with you, and I'm like, I wonder if she's going to ask me to be on the podcast. I really hope she asks me to be on the podcast. I'm going to be kind of hurt if she doesn't ask me to be on the podcast. And then you asked me, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So tell me, why did you want to be on the podcast?
I think that people need to know what you do and how you do it and why they need to work with you, because listening to the podcast is phenomenal. And if that's enough for some people, fantastic. But you know what? I'm pretty smart. I pretty much got most of my stuff together, and I still really needed that one-on-one help from you to make it all come together. I knew a lot of the stuff that you were telling me. I just couldn't put it into action. And I'd worked with a business coach before, which was why I knew that I wanted to work with a coach. And one of the things she told me is that, yeah, you may know all this stuff, but I can get you there a lot faster. And that's so true. And you know me, I want to be there fast.
Yep.
And while this whole weight loss thing isn't really happening fast, it's happening pretty fast. It's not fast enough for me, of course, but it's going pretty fast. And you got me there before I could have gotten there by myself. And or if I could have even gotten there by myself. So it was so worth it to me to work with you and to spend the money and to give you my time and to take yours and to make it happen.
Yeah, that is such a beautiful thing to say. So here's the question that I want to ask you, because I know that there's a lot of people out there that are listening to the podcast just like you. So how long were you listening to the podcast before you decided that you want to book a mini session with me?
You know, I hadn't listened to the podcast before I found you.
Oh,
I actually knew somebody who had gone. I knew somebody that was working with a coach through the life coach school. And she told me just a little bit about how it was going. And I'm like, maybe I should check out the coaches at the life coach school. So I looked at the coaches, and you specialized in women in menopause and beyond. And that was me. And so I called you and I booked a mini session, and then I started listening to the podcast right after that. So I found you through there.
Okay. So then I want everybody to hear this. So then the mini session was a really important step for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because then I got to meet you virtually over the phone, find out if it was going to be a good fit. And I remember during our mini session that part of what I need a coach for is that, as you know, I'm a very strong personality, and a lot of
everybody listening to this podcast, strong, brilliant, successful.
Absolutely. That's what I needed, is somebody to help me see where I was kidding myself, where I was lying to myself, where I wasn't being true to who I was. And you did that beautifully and kindly. You were strong too, but you never in a mean way, always in a very kind way. And I remember during that first session, you know, feeding you my bullshit, and you said, I don't know if I can help you. And I went, oh shit. Well, now what do I do? And then you talked to me for a little bit longer and got me to say what I needed to say so that you could hear that I was serious about this and that I wanted to make changes, because I was like, oh, life's good. And, you know, everything's fine. And I don't have any problems. I'm just fat. And you Let's
start right there, because I want people to hear this, because I think this is true for a lot of people. A lot of very successful women say, you know, my life is great. I'm really happy.
Right.
It's just my weight. Or what you said, I'm just fat. And I
Yeah,
couldn't understand because basically the first part of the mini session was all about how happy you are and how much you love your
right,
life. And so I'm going
right.
like, well, what's the problem?
Exactly.
Why are you
And then I was
talking to
like,
me?
yeah. And are you, if, is this really a problem for you? Or are you just doing it because you think society needs you to be thinner?
Uh-huh.
And I question that about myself a little bit too.
Mhm.
Am I unhappy with my weight because society tells me that I need to be thinner?
Mhm.
And I'm a strong person. Can I just tell them all to shove it and just be who I am and be me? And the answer is yes, I can. But
And maybe you
I,
have. And maybe you have.
yeah, but I also wanted to be thinner for me, not for anybody else, but for me. I
And I
wanted to be more
and,
active, and I wanted to be more comfortable on an airplane, and I wanted to be smaller.
and this is the thing that I remember, that I think that up until that phone call, you were kind of fooling yourself into it's not that big of a deal. And for
Yes,
some, and I knew it was, or you wouldn't be on the phone with me,
correct.
right? And so, but I wasn't willing to work with you unless I knew that you were 100% committed to the process. And really, what you said to me is, it ended up coming out is that you really did want to lose weight. You just didn't believe that you could.
Right.
And
Because
so you kind of gave it up until that
right,
mini session.
right. That it wasn't my fault. It was genetics, and that I eat perfectly and I'm still fat. And I knew deep in my heart that was bull. That was
And that
bull.
was the mini session. Really, for
Yes,
everybody that's listening, the mini session is all about, are we a good fit? Can I help
absolutely.
you? Do you want the help? And would you say by the time the mini session was over that you felt like you would be 100% committed to working with me and that I could help you?
Absolutely. Because even when we did the mini session, it was about
Yep.
a month before you could get me in.
Right.
And so even before I started working with you, I started losing weight. Just by listening to the podcast and doing the things that you talk about on there. And I asked you, what should I do to start? And you said, just you know keep going with why you want to lose weight, and get prepared to lean in. And the other thing is that I own a tax business, and we started in January, which is like my
Yeah.
busy. And I knew it would be the hardest, mentally the hardest time for me to
Yes.
work with you, and physically the easiest time for me to not eat a lot because I'm so busy. So I knew that it would be a good time to do it, because I wouldn't have, during the day I wouldn't have as many temptations. Although I found that was bull too, because you can
I
find
think
time.
everything you're saying right now is kind of bullshitty. And this is the reason why
Yes,
I'm going to say it. Because what I remember is that you telling me this is the hardest time of year for me.
right.
And this is the time when I want to disconnect from myself the most
Yes. Yeah.
and
In the
use
back of my
food.
mind, I'm thinking, oh, I've already kind of got this. So, but that's, and I understood the concept. I just couldn't put it into to make it work. And I knew that you would help me figure out how to make it work. And you did. You totally did. I never turned. I remember telling you about a time when I was in my office, and my business partner was dealing with a difficult client, and I could hear it, and it was causing me stress. And I thought, I'm going to go into the kitchen and get a snack. And then I'm like, holy crap. It doesn't even have to be my stress to make me run for food. Somebody else's stress can make me run for food. And of course I didn't do it, but it was a real eye opener as to how many times I ran for food when things were difficult. That was my go to make myself not deal with it or forget about it or feel better about it. Just, let's run into the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it
And
was
that,
actually the running to the kitchen that was what I needed to do. Don't open you can run into the kitchen, you'll feel better. Don't open the fridge, just keep walking and you'll feel better. And that's what I started doing. Just moving.
right, because moving is a wonderful way to help you feel better
Right.
without eating, which is a really important key. And the other thing that you're saying to me that I want everybody to be aware of is that you gained this awareness of yourself pretty quickly. that you could see that stress, that uncomfortable those vibrations in your body that were negative
Mhm.
emotions, you caught on pretty quickly that that was causing you to eat, and you were able to start circling around that and catching it pretty quickly. And I want everybody to be aware that it's like once you make that commitment, because once you made that commitment, you were willing to actually look at what you're doing, look at what you're eating,
Right.
look at why you're eating, which is why we do the food journals, which you were 100% committed to.
Yep.
And what I heard you say in the mini session, what I still know about you now that I've learned about you is that you have learned how to take on stressful situations, quote unquote, stressful situations to you, including tax season. And what I remember is you saying to me, why would I not want to do it during tax season? Why wouldn't I? Why would I stop myself from doing it during a really hard time if I'm trying to learn how to stop eating my emotions? And so
Right.
I think
Yeah.
you leaned into it right away for that reason.
Absolutely.
And I have seen you do that. And I want everybody to see this, that most people come to me because they say, oh, I had a lot of stress in my life and I gained a lot of weight.
Right.
And you are a perfect example of once you have that awareness, once you learn how to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full and deal with your emotions, which is what you've been doing, you have actually learned to deal with, I've seen it, deal with your emotions, not use food, and that you've stopped running in the kitchen to eat, and you
Right.
stopped running away from your negative emotions. You have started to feel them.
Absolutely. As you know, I've got some more times right now that
Right.
where circumstances are supposed to be neutral, and I do believe that it's a circumstance that's definitely building up some bad emotions and thoughts. My business partner has cancer and it's inoperable, and
Yeah.
we've got a lot of unknowns and I've got a lot of sadness around it, and concern, and
Mhm.
looking at having to pivot my business and do some different things. So there's been of lots of reasons that I could have used in the past to dive into, more alcohol, cookies, pizza, whatever I could get my hands on that would make me feel better for a few minutes. And it's just not happening. I did have a little bit of a stutter there for a while where I stopped losing weight, but I never gained any weight. That's for sure. And I just recommitted to keeping promises to myself, which is my big why. And things are definitely smoothing out. And I know I'm going to hit my natural weight no matter what. And you've helped me see that it doesn't have to be tomorrow. I can take my time to get it done, but everything, the way that I treat food is completely different now than it was before. And the way that I relate to food is completely different now than it was before.
And I am here to say, yes, sister, I have seen it. And I even remember when you told me about what you were just talking about with your partner. I remember this one sentence that you said to me. And what you said to me is like, I think I'll need help maybe, going through it and managing my mind and also processing my emotions because it's
Hmm.
hard. But you
Yes, it is.
said to me, there is no way I'll eat my way through this. There's
No,
no way I'm going to turn to food. And
no.
that has been true.
I just can't do it. I mean, even just like eating past full is just so uncomfortable now that there's no way that I would, yeah. I mean, when I accidentally forget to pay attention and I'm like, oh crap, that was about 3 bites I didn't need. Even just an extra 3 bites is so uncomfortable that I'm like, yeah, we're not doing this. This is not the way it works anymore.
And I talk a lot about like on the podcast and with my clients, including you, about your big why or your compelling reason that you
Hmm.
just mentioned. Do you want to
Hmm.
say what your compelling reason is? And then we can talk about that a little bit because I think it's amazing.
Yeah, my compelling reason is that I'm going to keep promises to myself. I've always been very good at, and most women are that way, really good at keeping promises
Talk
to
about
other.
yourself, though. Talk about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm really good at keeping promises to other people, there for you, do whatever I need to do. And then when it comes to yourself, You don't keep the big promises to yourself. You you say, okay, well, I want to eat healthy, but cookie sounds really good. So, I'll just treat myself to a cookie. It's
Yeah.
not a treat. Food is not a treat. And treating yourself to a cookie is breaking a promise to yourself. And that does
For you, it was
for me.
breaking you
Yes.
made a promise to yourself about, and we don't have to get into all that, but when we
But
work together, you decide on how you want to eat and what you want
right.
it to look like, and
Yeah.
what you want joy eats to be.
Right. And I still eat cookies, but I don't eat cookies
Exactly.
because I'm unhappy and I'm trying to make myself feel better, because that doesn't work. That doesn't work. That will make me feel better for 30 seconds and make me feel worse for a day. So
Or
that's not,
for
yeah,
years.
exactly. So that's not keeping the promise to myself to do what I want to do. I had a little bit of a problem wrapping my head around you can eat whatever you want and what that really meant.
Yeah.
And what it really means is that I eat what I want to achieve the goals that I have set myself, to keep the promises to myself. I can eat whatever I want, and there are different reactions to that. And I get to decide what they're going to be, and I get to decide what it is I really want to eat. And what I really want to eat is stuff that makes me feel good, not stuff that makes me feel bad. And too much sugar and junk makes you feel bad, makes you feel like crap. Who wants to feel like crap? That's not good. It's not what I want.
I know, but don't you think that's interesting because you spent most of your life up until this moment eating crap and thinking that's what
Yes,
you wanted. And that's a lot of
exactly.
people on this podcast thinking, "Oh, I want to work with her because I want to be able to eat whatever I want."
Yes.
Right?
I
Like,
was very resistant to changing the way that I eat, very resistant to doing anything that I thought would be make me feel like I wasn't having everything that lack
yep.
was something I was like, oh, I can't deprive myself. I know myself. If I deprive myself, then I'm gonna freak out, and then I'm gonna go 100 degrees the other way. But you have to redefine what depriving yourself is, and depriving myself is eating stuff that makes me feel like crap. That's a deprivation right there. Why wouldn't I want to live my best life and feel the best that I can all the time?
Oh my God, you should be teaching for me. I should just put you on my podcast and I'll take a vacation.
There you go.
I mean, you are literally saying all the words that I tell people can happen.
Absolutely. And I think that people can hear it, and they can hear it from me, but you are so good at tailoring it to how people need to hear it for them. I mean, that was the thing, is that I can listen to your podcast all the time, but I needed you to talk me through my individual little things. I'm like, but, because I like to say but, and you would be like, no, that's not, no, no. I think that's a bunch of crap. And I'm like, well, it is. But well, it is. And I needed you to tell me that, because we lie to ourselves to protect ourselves. There's that little voice inside, a couple of little voices inside of us going, no, 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 no. That's not what you want. You want to eat cookies. And then there's that other voice inside that goes, no, you could never, ever, never, ever have a cookie. And you have to kind of be the referee and soothe everybody and say, take over and say, no, I'm making these decisions. My subconscious is not making this. I'm making these decisions. I'm owning them. And this is who I want to be. And that's what it's all about.
So I think, like, for people who are listening to this, is that you made a commitment. Number one, your big why is that you wanted to keep your promises to yourself. You wanted to be a person that kept their own promises.
Correct.
And I think what happened is, as I was coaching you and as I kind of called you on, BS, and what we mean by BS is just, it's the things that you tell yourself. It's the
Right.
thoughts that you think about yourself that don't serve you.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
And
But
it's
they feel so
useless.
true.
Yes. Yes. I know. When people say things like my truth, I just want to smack them, because there's no my truth, there's only the truth. And the truth is, if you eat cookies and pizza only all day and more than you want, you're going to be fat. There's no other truth to that. The truth is that you have to face reality. And reality is that while you can eat whatever you want, you better want the good stuff. Because if you don't want to eat the good stuff, you're not gonna you're not gonna get there. And you're lying to yourself.
And so for you, I think your transformation was because that was a lot of work in the beginning is your resistance to, but I want this and I want to be able to do it this way and I want to eat
Yeah.
that. And I think through the coaching and through the awareness of your own mind, because I remember a lot with alcohol about like, well, I
Hmm.
think I should be able to drink whatever I want. And I don't want to have to restrict or deprive myself when I'm having with my friends and stuff like that.
Yep. I'm
And
having
I'd like
fun.
you to say a little bit because there's a lot of people listening that with the joy eating and the joy drinking with alcohol. And I
Yep.
believe, and you can say to the people who are listening that you come to peace with that and you do drink or
Absolutely.
eat whatever you want, and yet you're
Ab-
still losing weight beautifully.
Absolutely. I am. Yeah. I'm not on any kind of a radical diet. I eat regular food. I eat, I go out to eat. I eat with friends. I'm more mindful about what I'm putting in my mouth and how much I'm putting in my mouth, but
Yeah.
I don't have anything that I never eat or that's restricted. I don't eat cookies for breakfast, but when I want a cookie, I have a cookie. And when I want pizza, I have pizza. But when you start feeding your body foods that is good for it, you want that stuff less. And you do still want it occasionally. And sometimes I want it and I'm like, no, you don't really. That's not actually what you really want.
How you
You
talk to
really
yourself.
want, yeah, you really want to, meditate or go for a walk or take a nap. There's other things that you really want because you're that
Mhm.
little voice inside says, no, pizza, that's how we soothe ourselves. We want pizza. And we're like, no, we don't really. And I used to think that when you drink and you drink a lot, you tend to build up a tolerance. So to get that fun buzz, you have to drink more and more. When you start saying, you know what, I think today I'm only going to have one, and you say to your and you do it for a week or 2 weeks, pretty soon one is giving you a buzz. Like one is
Right. So
plenty.
I wanna just interject there because we did
Yeah.
work on that,
Yes.
about more planning what you want to drink. But we also, and I think it's really important for everybody that's listening, is this whole idea of joy eating and joy drinking, which is what we're talking about, is that
Right.
what I think you've learned to do is to become very mindful
Hmm.
of how things taste and how things feel.
Right.
And when you
Right.
do that,
Instead of just shoving it down and going, well, I'm going to need more and more and more, you really can be satisfied with less if you're paying attention, because
yes.
there's never any time when I leave a meal and go, oh man, I really want some more of that. If I'm hungry, I eat. When I'm not hungry, I don't want any more, because when you eat when you're not hungry, it doesn't feel good. If you pay attention, if you ignore the fact that it doesn't feel good when you eat more than you want, then you just keep doing it, because the very beginning of when you start eating is where you get all the joy and comfort. And then it starts lessening and lessening throughout a meal. And if you just keep looking for that first bite again, it's not coming. So you can't use food as comfort and your only
Right.
joy.
Right. So fuel is to fill up your gas tank, which you're very,
Right.
very good at choosing fuel food to fill up your belly between the twos.
Right.
And through our work, you learned how to use joy eats and joy drinks to mindfully either enjoy the feeling or enjoy the taste. Right, mindfully, which means a lot less, but much more satisfied. Is that
Right.
right?
Right. And no mindless eating, sitting and eating an entire bucket of popcorn while you're watching a TV show is not really very satisfying. But if you sit and eat a small bowl of popcorn and only pay attention to the popcorn, it's pretty dang good. And then you're going, but I really don't want any more. And I totally
Yeah.
would have just stuffing it in because of,
So So there you are. This is Pam, everybody, for those of you who are listening, who has totally made a brain mind transformation. You can
uh,
hear, I hear it. I'm sure everybody can hear it. What would you say to anybody that's listening to this podcast who is thinking maybe this would be right for them. Maybe they're on the fence. Maybe it's a little iffy. What would you say after your experience doing this work, losing weight, having all of these mini transformations in your brain about believing that you can eat whatever you want, that food is not the problem? What would you say to
I'd
these
say do
people?
it. Do it now. Call her as soon as possible. She does not have time for you this very minute to start working with you. It's going to take time. And the longer you put it off, the longer it's going to take for you to get where you need to be. And you're going to learn how to transform your brain and your body. And it's going to leak into so many other places in your life that you're not even aware that you had problems in until you started working with Dr. Deb, and how many places in your life are affect when you eat for stress or for comfort, it's your entire life that's like you're bringing into this whole eating thing. And so when you start working on things like, why am I eating? And it's like so much bigger than you think. You think it's just I overeat and that's my problem. That's hardly your problem. It's not about the food. It's about your brain and why you're eating the food. And when you work with Dr. Deb, you figure out why you're eating the food, and it's so many more parts of your life than you think. And even when you have a fabulous life like I had before, it's even more fabulous now because I'm dealing with the problems that go along with it. I can't recommend it more. Do it, do it, do it. There's no reason not to. It's expensive. Do it. It takes your time. Do it. It's the best investment I ever made. Do it.
Pam, thank you so much for being on my podcast. And I just want everybody to see that this can be a very, very, very fun experience because I can't
Absolutely.
stop laughing.
Oh, yeah. And we cried. I cried. Cried a couple of times, but always felt better afterwards. Always felt really energized and ready to hit my day and hit my week. And it was so funny because it was almost every time that I would hit the day running, and it would be the day before I was going to talk to you that I'd have some big old blow up. And I think it was my subconscious going, okay, well, we need to really work through all this stuff because we got a limited amount of time here. And I was always worried about that. Oh, my time's running out with Dr. Deb. I got to get this all figured out.
Right.
And so I would have a some sort of blow up before every time that I talked to you. And I did work through so much.
You did.
And no, I'm not perfect at anything yet. No. But the things that you've taught me are still here, and I still rely on them, and they're still helping me.
Thank you, Pam, for being on the podcast and for sharing and being so open with everybody. You're going to inspire a lot of people today. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for working with me, and thank you for the benefits that I've received from you. I
Okie
love you,
dokie.
Dr. Deb.
I love you too.